are reserved for those who in times of grave moral crisis remain neutral. That is because those who remain neutral in times of grave moral crisis know better. They could be doing something, but they choose not to. And that is a great and distressing sin. My fellow men who seek justice here this evening, for our friend, our colleague, our brother, Shalom Rubashkin, these are indeed times of great moral crisis. And we cannot, we must not, we will not remain neutral. I had the honor of serving as a United States Attorney under two presidents, Presidents Reagan and Bush I. And I was reminded shortly after I took my oath of office for that public service of a former United States Attorney General, Robert Jackson. Now, Robert Jackson was the United States Attorney General in Washington in the years immediately preceding and immediately after World War II. He served years later as a justice on the United States Supreme Court. But perhaps his greatest contribution to all of us here today was his service as the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg in those days following that dark period of our world's history. But before then, he spoke to the Department of Justice 70 years ago in 1940. He called together all of the United States attorneys from around the country, and he spoke to them about the importance of being a federal prosecutor, the power of that position. And he spoke to them about what is most important in being a federal prosecutor. Now, he could have spoken about the importance of the number of convictions, about the amount of money that you raise in fines, about how long a period you can send people away to the big house, to prison. But Robert Jackson, then the Attorney General of the United States, later to be a Supreme Court Justice, later to prosecute and to lead the prosecutions at Nuremberg, spoke of something very different when he admonished those United States attorneys that had gathered in the great hall at the Department of Justice. He said that the greatest tool, the greatest attribute that a prosecutor can bring to that most powerful of positions in government is humility and fairness. We ask today, where is humility on the part of these government officials? Where is the fairness? Where is the justice? We have not seen it yet. When he spoke those words as the top law enforcement official of the United States, as the Attorney General, it took great courage to go before all of those prosecutors, sort of chomping at the bit, waiting to get out there and prosecute people and see that the law is enforced and put people in jail for as long as possible. It took great courage for him to say something very different, because he knew, as Justice Louis Brandeis knew, who years before, that great justice of the United States Supreme Court, admonished all of us that the greatest greatest threat to liberty are the encroachments by men of zeal, well-meaning, but without understanding. Justice is not how many people you put in jail. Fairness is not how long you can put them away. It's not how great a fine you can pull from their pockets and their family. It is to see that justice be done, and that is indeed the job of the prosecutor. Yet when judges fail to meet that burden, when they fail in their responsibility to see that justice is done, we must not remain neutral. We must get into that arena and fight for those to whom they deny justice. That is what brings us here this evening. But if we come together here this evening simply for one time, for one get-together, for one rally, then we will have let Shalom Rubashkin down. We will have let Leah Rubashkin down. We will have let their 10 beautiful, lovely children of God down. We will have let all of us down. What we must commit ourselves to here this evening is the long haul. This will be a long and painful process. I have not known Shalom Rubashkin as long as many of you have. I met him just earlier this spring during his sentencing hearing before that judge. And yet I was struck immediately on meeting this man and talking with him by the tremendous strength that he brought to that courtroom, that tremendous strength that he showed throughout those proceedings, far stronger than I would be in his situation. I was absolutely amazed on June 22nd of this year, a day that will live in infamy and justice in America, because on that day, this man was given what the government hopes to be, and the judge planned on being, a life sentence. It's not just 27 years. It's not like you just walk down to the store and buy 27 years or deposit 27 years in a bank. This is a life. And yet, within minutes after that judge issued that sentence to that defendant, that man sitting there, and as he got up after the sentence was imposed, and I was sitting right behind him, he turned and he looked at those family members that were there, some of whom had tears in their eyes, and he smiled. He smiled at them, and he urged them to smile too. And I suspect that he smiled because there is something that is far greater, far more powerful than that black robe that that judge wears up there, and far more powerful than those copies of the United States Criminal Code that has become the Bible for so many, far too many prosecutors in our land.